wonderful morning.
Yes.
I just have a feeling that extra hour, really. Ooh, do that more often. So for those of us who have been here weekly since September, something that we know is we're doing this season for interfaith and intercultural celebration all the way from September through the end of the year. And it's a lot of fun. And what we're doing today is looking at a few different things. And they fit beautifully together, of course, because they're all aspects of universal truth. So why wouldn't they? One is that November is National Native American Heritage Month. Today begins the season of the blanket. And I have it written here, and when I get to that again, I may even try to pronounce it. It's called Guilatkwa. The season of the blanket. It is a time when the earth, although you couldn't tell by looking out the window, covers herself in a blanket of snow and prepares to sleep. There is a dance that begins today. It's called the Navajo Night Dance. And it is celebrated, it is one of the sacred dances that's done for 9 days. And the purpose of it is said to be one of the restoration of balance and order. So there's a beautiful myth, a beautiful story about what that is. And we would have to take some separate time to just sit around and share that story. So just know that that's a little bit of what is taking place right now. Another part of this honoring of all paths and looking at what else is being celebrated, by whom, and how it all ties together, is this concept of a new moon, which is something that many people throughout time have attuned to. This is everything from earth-based religion to the Farmer's Almanac. It is a time for planting. It is a time for new beginnings. And obviously at this time of year, what we would be planting would be different than we would at another time. Also, there is a solar eclipse. And the concept of eclipse is wonderful because it's saying that there's an opportunity to do something so great that it completely outshines, overshadows, and just takes up the space in our experience in a brand new big way that we can't help but notice. There are a couple of qualities about that that are attributable to another path of study and practice. And it isn't one that we teach here, but it is one of the many sciences that looks at the influence of the elements, of the planets, and our relationship to them, and how they work together, just like the tides. So these are possibilities. These are trends. Nothing is absolute. And here's what they are. I'm so thrilled to read this. So imagine that there's a possibility that today is a great time to make new beginnings about the following. New beginnings in transformation. New beginnings in spiritual practices. Shared resources, committed relationships and partnerships, the broadening of our networks of mutual support, partnering with people whose expertise, other than our own, can help us move toward our goals. That's exciting. So I say, let's believe that, because it's all so good. Right?
So it is.
So those are a few of the themes that we have here that begin this time together. These these are more things that came to mind on the way here. It's just so much fun. Daylight savings time ended this morning. When I was looking at some of the quotes and ceremonies and practices of the Native American people, I also found some commentary, and there was this interesting thing that it said only some people creating rules that are not of nature would think that you could cut a foot off the top of a blanket and sew it to the bottom, and somehow it would be longer. So we're at this place right now where we say daylight savings time ends. And the people, because of agriculture in our country, decided to shift our interpretation of time in order to increase the amount of yield that we could get from our crops, the amount of daylight that we could experience. It seemed like a logical thing to do from an earthly sense. And still, endings come. And still, life has its natural cycles. So while we can do various things to resist them, to try to manipulate them, to try to adjust and control our experience with them, they happen regardless. There's an opportunity in acknowledging that there's only so far we can go with our daylight savings time before we admit that this is a time for something else to take place. Do you know the collection of ideas that I'm sharing this morning include endings, and they include new beginnings, and they also include this concept of balance, because there's something that must happen between the endings and the new beginnings in order for all of it to be possible. But we begin with endings, of course, because actually what we're experiencing right now is that. We're experiencing an ending. The natural metaphors for gardening, for harvesting are so appropriate, and that's why they've been used for millennia to help us to understand ourselves, because we get them. They're so simple. So what happens right now, first of all, is we celebrate the harvest, right? All kinds of celebrations of harvest going on. Giving thanks for picking the final bounty, piling it up and saying, look at all of this beauty, look at all of this abundance and this good, and having celebrations that involve feasting and storytelling and singing songs and gathering around and giving thanks for our good. So we do that. And then there's a little bit left over. There could be the spindly corn plants after all of the ears have been picked. There could be the dried up, bean or pepper plants or whatever the case may be. They're out in the fields looking really, And what we do with those is we till them. We plow them under. We let go of the part that is not part of our harvest, and we give thanks for it too, and we till it under. And what happens is that it decomposes, and it becomes part of the fertilization and the clearing and the preparation for what is next. So we have the opportunity to do the same thing in our minds. Because what we do here is we recognize that there is an absolute constant connection between what we think and feel, and what we emote, and what we choose, and what we say, and what we do, and what we're therefore focusing on, and open to, and receptive to, and making room for, and looking for, embodying and experiencing in our lives, and the belief systems that we create out of all of that, one big cycle. Right? So we're celebrating the harvest. We're acknowledging that, yes, the days are getting shorter, there's no way around it. And we're letting that not only be okay, but we're recognizing the good in it. There's some interesting teachings in a book by Margaret Wheatley called Leadership and the New Science. And she uses natural sciences to look at how people operate in organizations together. And she helps people to work together better by using those models. So what happens when any system reaches a point where it has exhausted all of its potential in that form is that it begins to fall apart. It begins to let go. It has given all that is possible from that place. It has used the law of growth and reached out and called to it every possible manifestation. It has lived up fully to its potential, and it is complete. And the point of that completion, there's a beauty, it's a Kodak moment, there's a snapshot, there's the bounty, there's the harvest, there's the beauty of it. And then what happens is, what's next? It's the letting go. And what happens is that everything that was combined in that creation to take that form becomes available for a new design, for a new model, for a new form. Because life is energy, and energy must move. It must have some embodiment in space and time in order to express. And its nature is to always become more. So when you reach this place where all of that has been fulfilled, all of that potential, that's called equilibrium. That's called balance. And some part of us says, oh, I'd love it to stay this way all the time. It's just perfect. Got everything just right. My routine, how my day goes, who I see, when, what I do, how I feel, what I eat, what I wear, everything. Got it all figured out. What must happen in order for life to move through us is some kind of a disassembly. Now, truly, our bodies and all around us, nature, everyone and everything is doing this all the time. So we have new cells constantly being created. This isn't always the dramatic ending. It is the subtle kind that's going on all the time that is involved in renewal. So, what happens when endings take place is that there's a new vessel, a new form created so that that energy can continue to express and to take new form. And that's what happens. So we have our celebration of the harvest, of a chapter in our lives, of someone's life, of a thing that we accomplished, of a season in our own experience, whatever it is. We have that party, and then we understand that it is perfectly natural and absolutely necessary for that form to dissolve and for all of the elements of it to be made available for a new assignment. And we get to relax and trust and breathe and grow in that stillness. The stillness is this place in between before the new beginning can happen. And that is what we call rest. We had an opportunity to get more acquainted with rest, many of us, last night. Because we had the appearance of this extra hour. Rest. Stillness. Darkness. We can't see new beginnings. Do you know you can't see a new moon? It's not visible. Perfect time for a new beginning. Can't see something germinating beneath the soil, but it is happening. We can't see a fertilized egg starting to grow into a life form. We can't see new beginnings. And we're not supposed to. Because if we could, would we trust? New beginnings are invisible because what happens is we must trust in them. And in our being tricked into trusting by having to see that which is not yet seen and believe in that which we cannot yet touch or taste or smell or hear or know, is that we open up. We see first with our inner eyes. We hear first with our inner ears. We love this new life first with our inner heart. And we imagine it as this fully orbed thing. We dream about it. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. Because then we cooperate with its fulfillment in trusting, in being still, in breathing, in knowing. We cooperate with it. We open to it. We open out a way for it to be made manifest by means of us. So that's the beautiful cosmic trick about beginnings, is that we can't see them because we need to see them first in here in order for them to be welcome in our lives. Everything is about agreement. We are free. Yes, we're magnificent. Yes, our thoughts are creative. Yes, the universe moves according to our thought and our belief. And we have to have it first. And then it responds to us by forming that thing in physicality, in time and space, as a real life. So that time for rest and stillness is absolutely vital. And what, of course, happens at the shortest, darkest, sometimes coldest time, the stillest time, is it right after that? The dawn comes. The sun rises over the horizon, and our faith is restored. Right? After we are willing to rest, to let go, to let it be, and to trust, the sun comes bursting up over the horizon, and the birds begin to sing, and visible life, tangible life, is everywhere, all around us. There's another thing about this cycle that is also really important today and every day, because we have endings, and then we have that very important pause, that neutral time of resetting and reflecting, of rejuvenation, and then we have this new life. The new life will always eclipse the old. The new life will always be greater than the old, because that is a quality of spirit. It is a quality of us, being made by it, of it, in its image, in its likeness, out of it. And so our natural quality is to grow. It is to become more all the time. You know, if you've ever heard somebody talk about wanting something, let's say wanting a new relationship or a new job, and next thing you know, you get fired, or someone breaks up with you, wanting a new something or other, and you didn't even realize that you thought it and felt it and maybe even said it so clearly. And then suddenly, well, there you go. That shift begins to take place. Similarly, when we reach a point of completion with a form in our lives, we may experience something like exhaustion. Because literally, don't call it good or bad, just think about it. When that form in our life has fully filled every part of its possibility, we have literally exhausted all the possibilities of that form to conduct life. And so what must happen is that it falls apart and something new begins to take its place that is even greater. It's the next thing. Some of us are in this really, really powerfully engaged process of visioning what we desire to have as our next experience, and we can feel it, we recognize it, we know it by heart, we know it by sight, we know it by name, we know it by feeling, and we're still doing this other thing. And what's happening is we're experiencing this realization that we have to let go of the other thing. And what do we have to do? Trust. Trust that something will come and is already arriving in perfect time to take its place in a greater way. So we have to let go. There's a beautiful thing about what's happening right here. Just gorgeous. We've been studying something from Wallace Wattles that says in order to be in alignment with the law of growth, you have to fully fill up the space that you're currently in before you start making big plans about who else you'd like to be. what else you'd like to have or do. And we're in this beautiful place where we have to go get chairs pretty regularly now because we've all been growing. And we've been sharing with our friends and they're coming. And gosh, if everybody, on our mailing list came at once, then we'd have to meet twice because we're at that point. So it's beautiful. It's even bittersweet. It's a little scary because we have dreams of another place. We're experiencing a quickening. There's something within us that recognizes that we are about to be born into the next iteration. And so we have some things to let go of. When we do the visioning process here, we ask what is Spirit's highest vision for us in whatever the theme is. And then we say, what is my gift? What is my part to bring to its fulfillment? Then we say, what must I release for the fulfillment of this vision? And what must I embrace? Because after that, there's something new about ourselves that we get to finally embrace and acknowledge something great for the fulfillment of this vision. So that's right where we are. And many of us are nodding our heads because we're right there in our own experience in some way. And we know that there's something to let go of. So what I invite you to do today, and this is what we're doing right now, is we're celebrating the harvest. Look around these beautiful collages. Jackie's not here this morning, but Alyssa was a big part of that, and Frida as well. These collages that were created for our party recently, they are our harvest. They're a little piece of the celebration of who we have become so far. And now we're dreaming of this place. Some of us have gone, we've even pressed our noses up against the glass and gone like this so we could see inside. We're looking at a place that has more room in it, has more of the qualities that we're ready to experience as our very own. And so we're in this beautiful, tenuous place of celebrating our harvest, of acknowledging that which is about ready to say to us, you're done here. This part, this beautiful part, is nearing completion. And you're ready to grow. And then let go and know that even though this is more than a worthy goal, as Mary Morrissey would say, it is a vision. It's something that requires that we stretch and do more than we think we can. It is calling to us. And so we spend time resting and trusting and breathing and knowing. And being okay with the how not being spelled out in advance. No guarantees. We just trust and breathe and know. Pretty soon, that dawn comes. And that new thing becomes our next reality. So I invite you to take this all in because I know there's something that is happening in your life right now that parallels all of this. That's why we're here together. And whatever that is, celebrate your harvests. Celebrate the part that's left over, that you can't eat, that's not pretty. And know how perfect it is. And till it under. Give thanks for it. And let it be the fertilizer for what is next. And take some time to stop. To let go completely. So completely that you're doing something else. Like taking a walk. Or reading a book. Doing something you love that you haven't done in a while. And know that that dawn is right around the corner. So we're just going to close this with a spiritual mind treatment. I invite you to close your eyes and I will take you through this as we wrap this up with a spiritual bow. I know that there is one energy in this universe, one power, one presence, one substance, and one activity. And I know that I am and we are one with it. Therefore, all that it is and all that it has is who we are and what we have. I recognize that because this is so, every divinely inspired idea is one that we recognize and follow willingly, knowing that it comes in its perfect time for its complete fulfillment. And that when it comes, everything that we require for its fulfillment comes with it, just like a power-packed seed. And I know that our minds provide fertile soil in which these ideas grow, and that nature, the law of growth, provides everything for the nourishment and for the cultivating and for the delivery of this beautiful next thing. In gratitude for that. And all of the love and the support and the sense of connection and direction and belonging and certainty that shows up, I give thanks, knowing the gift has already been given. In that gratitude, we simply release our word and we open our eyes and say, and so it is.